As darkness swallowed the Kwevadis highlands and the wind howled like a whisper of death, Zaro, a young lion cub, survived his first day thanks to his brother Tazu. But what would happen when even Tazu couldn't shield him from the fate lurking in the shadows? Kwevadis was no land for the weak. Towering red rocks blazed under the relentless sun, like eternal flames devouring all hope. Sparse grasslands clung to life with thorny bushes, their roots burrowing deep to endure the scorching days that split the earth into jagged fissures. By night, a bone-chilling cold swept in, freezing breath in the air, as if the land itself sought to strangle life. Deep ravines echoed with the wind's eerie wails, like lost souls crying out, while water, the most precious treasure, trickled through narrow streams between rocks, often vanishing in the drought, leaving only a desperate thirst behind. Born into a pride of lions in Kwevadis, wore a soft coat and eyes untainted by fear. His innocence left him entirely dependent on Tazu, his sturdy brother with a golden mane and eyes sharp as blades. Tazu wasn't just a protector against prowling wolves or the giant eagles soaring overhead. He was a patient guide. He taught Zaro to sniff the wind for prey, to tread silently across rocks to avoid foes. Their bond ran so deep that Zaro trailed Tazu everywhere, copying his every step and roar. Once, when Zaro slipped and nearly plunged into a steep ravine, Tazu swiftly seized his neck and hauled him back, planting in Zaro a gratitude and awe that knew no bounds. The pride scraped by in a relentless fight for survival. Food was scarce often, just scrawny antelopes or tiny hares forcing them to split meager scraps. Clashes with rival prides or wolf packs over territory never ceased, carving deep scars into the lions' bodies. Zaro once watched his mother roar defiance at a starving leopard, standing firm over her cubs amid a brutal hailstorm, a beacon of strength in this unforgiving land. But Kwevadis never showed mercy. One day, Zaro would face a darkness greater than anything Tazu could fend off, and the question loomed, would their brotherhood be enough to prevail? Months dragged on, and Kwevadis withered under a prolonged drought. Once lush grasslands shriveled, cracking beneath the blistering sun. Streams dried to dust, and food grew so rare that the pride gnawed on desiccated carcasses. The stench of decay rising from shriveled flesh. By the pride's harsh code, Tazu, now mature with a thick mane sprouting, couldn't escape exile. Zaro's father, the pride's leader with a silver-gray coat and a roar like thunder, led the males in chasing Tazu across razor-sharp rocks. Zaro, still a scrawny cub, stood atop a boulder, powerless as his brother vanished. Tazu's desperate roars reverberated through the ravines, blending with the shrieking wind, leaving Zaro trembling and wailing in grief. Years later, Zaro grew into a robust lion, his short, dark brown mane framing a muscular frame. But fate struck again on a stormy night. Lightning tore the black sky, and rain poured like a deluge, turning the ground to slick mud. Unyielding, Zaro's father shoved him from a high ledge. Zaro rolled down the slope, battered and bleeding. The pride's roars faded into the distance, leaving him alone with the thunder. Yet, deep within, a fierce longing to find Tazu blazed. He staggered to his feet, stepping through the downpour, setting off on a treacherous journey across Kwevadis and its red highlands. Zaro's path brimmed with trials. One evening, as the sun dipped low, he snagged a skinny rabbit. Joy was fleeting. A pack of wolves, eyes glowing like embers, burst from the brush. Over a dozen encircled him, snarling. One lunged, sinking teeth into Zaro's hind leg. Blood spurting, Zaro roared, slashing the lead wolf's throat with his claws, then charged to repel the pack. Wounded, he limped off, the wolves' howls of defeat ringing behind him. Next, Zaro strayed into a damp cave where a foreign pride lounged. A hulking male with a black mane spotted him and attacked. Zaro's shoulder tore open, blood streaming. He bolted, diving into a raging river. The icy current dragged him under, but he clung to a dry branch, hauling himself ashore. Gasping through the pain, on a rare patch of grassland, Zaro met a lioness with a pale golden coat and gem-like eyes. He hunted a small antelope, dragging it before her to impress, but a bigger male, his thick mane bristling, emerged from the bushes. They clashed, roars shaking the air. Pinned down, a fang snapped. Zaro retreated in shame, leaving the prize to the victor. Still, Zaro pressed on. Each step proved his grit and his burning need to reunite with Tazu. No matter how cruel Kwevadis became, his journey through Kwevadis was a ceaseless battle. One afternoon, as sunlight faded behind the hills, Zaro took down a large deer, a rare bounty amid the famine. But triumph was brief. A massive wolf pack appeared, eyes glinting in the dusk. More numerous than before, they split into two groups, striking from both sides. Sharp teeth ripped into Zaro's legs and back, blood gushing. Unbowed, he roared, smashing the lead wolf's ribs with a mighty blow. Its pained yelp stalled the pack. Seizing the chance, Zaro clamped his jaws on the deer and dashed into the dark forest, the wolf's frustrated howls fading in his wake. The next day, crossing unfamiliar ground, Zaro stumbled into hostile lion territory. Near a shimmering stream, 3 young males ambushed him from the bushes, claws gouging deep gashes across his back. Pain seared, but Zaro stayed calm. He leaped onto a high rock and unleashed a roar that drowned the stream's murmur. The raw power in his voice made the trio hesitate. Wasting no time, he sprang down and fled, dragging his weary frame through thorny scrub. Strife wasn't only external. One evening, resting by a boulder to recover, Roku, his half-brother, lunged from the shadows, teeth sinking into Zaro's neck. They grappled on jagged stones, blood staining the parched earth, growls filling the air. Driven by old grudges, Roku struck wildly. But Zaro, battle-hardened, dodged lethal bites with cool precision. At the right moment, he plunged his claws into Roku's shoulder. Roku's agonized roar split the night, and he fled, leaving Zaro breathless in the quiet. Yet, the deepest wounds cut beyond flesh. After Tazu's death, Zaro sat alone under the moon, staring at his brother's tattered remains. Silent tears soaked the cold ground. He wondered if he could bear this solitude and loss, or if the merciless wild would claim him. One night, unable to hold back, he roared in despair, the sound echoing through the valley like a lost soul's cry, merging with the frigid wind. Even so, Tazu's final words echoed within. Live, Zaro. Find happiness for both of us. He rose, wiping tears with trembling paws, and marched on, bearing the memory of the brother who gave everything for him. After years roaming Kwevadis's brutal expanse, Zaro found traces of Tazu. A secluded valley, tucked among barren rocky hills, bloomed like an oasis in the waste. Green grass thrived, fed by a small stream, winding through stones, a pulse of life in a dead land. Zaro trudged forward, legs weary but eyes keen, scanning every nook with faint hope for a familiar shape. Suddenly, a deep, warm roar rumbled from behind a massive rock, faint and halting, yet unmistakably their family's call, etched in Zaro's soul. He froze, ears pricked, heart pounding. Zaro answered with a mighty, heartfelt roar, a summons from his core. A stooped figure shuffled from the gloom. It was Tazu, the brother he'd sought for so long. But Tazu was no longer the regal lion of Zaro's youth, his golden mane aglow. He was old and frail, his once brilliant coat now gray and matted with dirt and age. One eye stared blind, a long scar slashing from brow to cheek, proof of battles endured. His frame was thin, old wounds marking his hide. Zaro drew near, sniffing, a scent now faint. Tazu lifted his head, his lone eye cloudy, but sparking with recognition. They stood in silence, the valley whined their only companion. They settled together under the silver moonlight, drifting back to days when Tazu taught Zaro to chase the breeze, when they fought as one for the pride, or slipped away from their father to romp among rocks. Zaro shared his odyssey, the blood-soaked fights, the scars that wouldn't heal, the endless ache for Tazu. Tazu listened, nodding now and then, his breaths ragged. As night thickened, the moon lit to forms, one frail, one enduring, united by an unbreakable bond. Tazu spoke, voice rough and faint. Zaro, you've grown into a strong lion. I'm proud of you. Zaro bowed his head, tears streaking his thick fur. But brother, you've suffered so much, he choked out. Tazu smiled, weary but kind. It's our fate, little brother. But remember, live, Zaro. Find happiness for both of us. As the moonlight faded, Tazu closed his eyes, his breathing slowed, and then stopped. Zaro held his brother tightly, feeling each faint heartbeat until it stilled. In his brother's embrace, Tazu took his last breath, peaceful and serene. Zaro threw back his head and roared, a roar of anguish echoing through the valley of farewell and a vow to live on for Tazu, for himself. Under the pale moonlight, Zaro sat beside his brother's lifeless body, reminiscing about the old days, about a brotherhood nothing could shake. He knew that even though Tazu was gone, his legacy would live on in Zaro's heart. In every step he took across the land of Kwevadis. After Tazu's death, Zaro fled into the dark night, his heart heavy with the pain of losing his brother. A pack of wild wolves, their howls chilling, pursued him relentlessly through the desolate land of Kwevadis. His legs were weary, but he couldn't stop. The wind whistled past his ears, mingling with the growls of his pursuers, drawing ever closer. In a panic, Zaro darted into a narrow ravine, hoping to escape the encirclement. But fate was cruel. His front paw became wedged tightly between two large rocks. He yanked desperately, his claws scraping against the stone with a grating sound. But it was futile. The wolves howled behind him, now just a few hundred meters away. The scent of blood from his old wounds seemed to spur them on. With no other choice, Zaro lowered his head and bit hard into his trapped claw. Pain tore through his body as blood poured onto the ground, staining his gray fur red. He gritted his teeth, severing part of his claw, feeling the bone snap and flesh tear. His roar of agony echoed through the ravine, but he didn't stop. With his last ounce of strength, he pushed the rock aside, dragged himself free from the deadly trap, and continued to flee into the darkness, leaving behind a piece of himself and the painful memory. In the days that followed, Zaro wandered aimlessly through the barren land, his eyes hollow, his body gaunt from lack of food. The wound on his paw became infected, swollen and throbbing, but he no longer had the strength to care. Each step was a struggle, yet he didn't know where he was going or why. Tazu was gone, and he felt himself fading away. One day, as the sun set over a rare patch of green grass amidst the dead land, Zaro collapsed, exhausted. He closed his eyes, thinking this might be the end. But then, a figure appeared. Kira, a lioness with a pale golden coat and a graceful stride, approached. Her eyes were gentle yet resolute, like a light piercing the darkness surrounding Zaro. In her mouth, she carried a small rabbit, placing it before him as an invitation to keep living. At first, Zaro didn't react, too weary to move. But Kira patiently nudged the rabbit closer. Finally, he took a bite, and the taste of fresh meat stirred a flicker of life within him. Kira stayed by his side. Over the following days, she brought him food and tended to his wounds with a tenderness that was firm yet kind. Under the moonlight, Kira told Zaro about her mother and the brave lion who had saved her from a pack of hyenas. As she described his courage and kindness, Zaro realized it was Tazu. Tears rolled down his cheeks, but alongside the sorrow was pride. Kira, with her warmth and stories, helped Zaro gradually find hope. He was no longer alone. Someone shared his memories of Tazu and brought light to his darkest days. Over time, Zaro recovered, both physically and emotionally. He stood up, ready to move forward, with Kira by his side and a new purpose, to live in honor of Tazu and to protect the hope she had given him. On a bright moonlit night, with silver light stretching across the land of Kwevadis, Zaro stood tall, the wind rustling through his thick fur. Suddenly, from the shadows, Roku's eyes blazed with hatred. He lunged from behind, his sharp teeth sinking into Zaro's shoulder. Blood seeped out, but Zaro didn't flinch. He roared and turned to face his foe. The two lions grappled on the rocky ground, their roars reverberating through the valley. Roku attacked furiously, but Zaro, seasoned by countless battles, skillfully dodged the lethal bites. He waited for the right moment, then delivered a powerful blow to Roku's neck. Roku's pained cry pierced the night. He fell, gasping for breath, his eyes filled with fear. Finally, Roku limped away into the darkness, never to return. Zaro stood there, his wound bleeding, but his eyes shone with victory. The threat from Roku was over. To win Kira, Zaro had to face an even greater challenge, a fierce male lion who ruled over her territory. The battle took place during a heavy rainstorm, as the gray sky opened up, washing away earth and stone, turning the ground into a slippery mire. The enemy charged, his claws slashing deep into Zaro's chest, but Zaro swiftly sidestepped, avoiding a fatal strike. He retaliated by sinking his claws into the rival's flank, making the male lion roar in pain. The two beasts wrestled in the mud, their roars drowned out by the thunder. With a final lunge, Zaro pinned his opponent down, defeating him completely. He stood tall in the rain, his victorious roar echoing across the land. Kira approached from a distance, her eyes filled with admiration. She bowed her head before Zaro, accepting him as her mate, marking the beginning of a new chapter. After days of fighting, Zaro and Kira built a new pride on a highland near a small stream. Where water trickled and grass grew lush, they gave birth to 3 healthy cubs, their fur shining golden like the morning sun. Zaro patiently taught them how to hunt in the thorny grasslands and how to hide beneath rocks, to avoid the predatory eagles circling above. Kira, with gentle love, taught them patience and the value of family, so they would understand that strength lies not only in claws but also in unity. Though Kwevadis remained harsh, with long droughts and enemies lurking in the shadows, Zaro and Kira stood together, facing every challenge. They lived happily with their cubs, carrying on Tazu's legacy, the brother who had sacrificed everything for Zaro's future. Under the fiery red sky of the highlands, Zaro gazed at his family, feeling the peace he had fought so hard to achieve. Their story became a new legend, echoing through the winds of Kwevadis. Beneath the vast sky of Kwevadis, Zaro and Kira's journey unfolded like an emotional ballad of family love and the power of unity. Together, they braved freezing winds and scorching sun, facing countless trials to protect their cubs and build a hopeful future. Each steadfast step they took proved that with loved ones by your side, no obstacle is too great, no path too distant to conquer. Their story is more than a tale of survival. It's a poignant reminder that with perseverance and connection, we can turn every hardship into a launchpad for triumph. Do you want to discover more beautiful journeys like this? From the animal world, subscribe to the Animal Kissa channel today to immerse yourself in touching stories, profound lessons, and endless inspiration. Don't miss the chance to be part of this wondrous journey.